Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this week's National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. I'm your co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine, and I'm here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin, and we are excited about our special guest today, aren't we, Lee?
I am so excited about our guest today. She brings so much to the table, and we're just going to get through this first segment talking about the National Federation of the Blind Newsline. Florence, what a great service that this is, and we're glad to have it in the state of Indiana, with our state sponsor being the Indiana State Library. Florence, let's talk a little bit about this service. Share a little bit to our audience about our service.
All right. Well, NFB Newsline is a free audio information service for the blind and visually impaired and print challenged community. It gives us access to over 500 newspapers, access to magazines, news breaks, job listings. It gives us access to a fantastic service, the basic KNFB reader. It is a fantastic service. Now, I particularly love reading the magazines, Lee, and I've talked about it on numerous shows about AARP, which gives us a lot of information. And I also like to read the Indianapolis Monthly magazine, the Indianapolis Business Journal. I love reading Time magazines. There's another fantastic magazine called WebMD, which gives me information on topics, just basically giving me information about what's going on in the health medical community. There's Shape magazine for people that are health conscious. And that to me is something that I believe our guests can also agree on later in the show. And Lee, I love NFB Newsline. Now, you particularly love reading the newspapers, don't you, Lee?
Yeah, I like to read it all. When I tell you, information keeps us informed as citizens, and blind citizens now have this great opportunity. Individuals that are blind, those with print challenges such as the shaky hand syndrome, certain forms of dyslexia, and even the deafblind now have access to all these different publications. Once again, informed citizens make informed decisions, and we are certainly citizens of this country. We bring a lot to the table. One of the publications that I really like is in our breaking news section. That's where it takes, we're getting our information off a wire feed, and for every hour of the day, it's updated with information with the plethora of different publications, such as the Daily Beast, ESPN Online, Fox News, and the HuffPost. Medical Express is a great one, and also Mental Floss. That is something really good to read too, is a Mental Floss. And once again, there's a magazine in there that's called Root, ROOT. I highly recommend that publication as well. Florence, you mentioned job listings. We have over 200,000 job listings on there, but with 2 search engines where individuals can locate jobs throughout the country by creating a search phrase for themselves and creating your own profile. So check NFB Newsline out. There's TV guide listings, job listings, Target and Walmart circulars, things that we as blind and print challenged citizens never had this opportunity to access free 24 hours a day. So stay tuned and go ahead, Florence.
I'm sorry, Lee. I wanted to let our viewers know how we access this information. We can access it various ways. I particularly love using my iPhone, and you can use it For people who still use their landline, they can use their landline phone, the Androids. The Amazon Alexa is another source that we use to access the service, the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library, as well as your computer. So those are ways that we can access it, and we can access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes, that's very good information. And I'm finding that more and more people are leaning toward the Victor Reader stream as well. So there's a number of ways we try to meet people where their skill sets are, and so that they can access this free service and have it right there at their fingertips, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So now we're going to take our short break and we're going to come back with our guests. You will enjoy it.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
With my failing eyesight, I'm not able to read regular newspapers, and I'm not able to keep up with obituaries.
I've been a homemaker all of my life, but since my vision has failed, I wish I could read my favorite magazines.
Have you heard of the NFB Newsline?
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a wonderful guest lined up today. We have Miss Nemaya Lancaster from Illinois. And Lamaiya, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Lamaiya, tell us a little bit about you, let's say your journey. And let's start first with your condition, your medical condition. Let's start there.
Okay, so yes, I do have advanced retinitis pigmentosa. I was diagnosed at a young age, actually. So for those who aren't aware, retinitis pigmentosa is a degenerative disease. So my eyesight has progressively declined over the years. But when I was in elementary school, I had a very attentive and amazing teacher that happened to notice that I was, having a little bit of trouble reading the blackboard from the back of the room. So she went on ahead and mentioned to my mother she might want to, take me in to get an eye exam. And that's when they were able to find out that I did have RP. And the adults in my life were amazing and sprung into high gear. My mother was very proactive about getting me the mobility training that I needed, the accessibility things that I needed. I can remember being in elementary school and having one of the first whiteboards in the elementary school because of the contrast as opposed to a green chalkboard with yellow chalk. So yeah, just having some amazing people in my life to do the mobility training with me over the years has really helped me as I've progressed into adulthood with all of the endeavors that I've done.
Okay, and being a child with retinitis pigmentosa, you mentioned that you had some awesome adults in your life. Now, however, growing up with the condition, what did you find to be your biggest struggle, if any, your biggest obstacle?
I think looking back, I'd have to say learning self-advocacy. So really being comfortable with myself to be able to say when I need help, when I can't see something, and coupling that with also being very independent. So, I had books on tape, I had large print texts and all of those types of accessibility things for my actual schooling. And then I also am a dancer. So I've been mobile and agile and moving around my entire life. So really, just I don't think it was necessarily something that was a hindrance or was difficult. It just was what it was. So I figured out how to do it.
Yes, ma'am. And so you have, and you said that you are very mobile, which takes us to, oh goodness, as our host has said, there's a very long trail of things that you have accomplished or accomplishing. And Lee, well, let's
Yes,
talk about some of those things.
yes, you have done so much in your life, and you spoke on the challenges that you may have encountered as advocating for yourself, and you've done that to a great degree, and you've had great support. Of course, Dr. Kane,
Yes.
and and we just want to say shout out to her
Yes.
because she has done a great job as a parent. And I tell you, I'm just so excited to talk about some of the things that you have encountered. Okay, so now with your education, your journey of education,
Yes.
let's talk about some of the education and some of the perhaps challenges that you found in higher education.
Okay, so yeah, I actually, if depending on how far back you want to go, I was offered the opportunity to be a student at the San Diego School for Creative and Performing Arts, and that's really where I got into a lot of my dancing that I've taken with me through the years. Moving up through that, coming to the Midwest, I did my undergrad at the College of Lake County in Grays Lake here, where I actually happen to work now, and Columbia College Chicago. And then I have two graduate degrees from Ball State University. Um, a lot of these institutions of higher education all have, departments for disability services, if you will. And one of the things that I've noticed is that especially in higher education, you have individuals with the best of intentions wanting to assist you in making your educational endeavors as successful as possible. But a lot of times, things were being offered to me as opposed to people listening to what I'm telling them I need.
Mhm.
So that understanding of I've been living with this my whole life, I know what works for me, and lifelong learning. I've been a student. I know what things work well in the classroom, what things work well in my home when I'm studying, as far as that. So that was one of the things that comes along with that self advocacy, being able to feel strong in my voice to speak up and say, okay, thank you. However, this is what I need, and this is how I need it to be done, you know?
Well, so with all of that, I know that there's another Lamaiya out there that is very interested in getting into dance and the arts. What are some of the problems that you're encountering in that particular area, dance and art?
I think that especially with movement arts, dance, yoga, anything that has the physical aspect, there is a stigma that the assumption is that if you're visually impaired, blind, or otherwise have, vision that is uncorrectable by lenses, that you are unable to participate fully in these activities, which is not the case at all. I have been able, as I stated before, my eyesight has been is degenerative. So the slow decline has allowed me or afforded me the opportunity to adjust um, in the moment as I've moved through doing my movement and dance career. So I have found that, breaking that stigma and breaking that barrier through my experiences and using myself as an example for others has been so important that, just because you may have, one sense that isn't up to, the standard of what we assume it should be, that you cannot participate fully in these activities. And they're so important, physical movement, and just really for the health and wellness and well-being is so important for everybody. So, it's really been one of my missions through my experiences, again, and using myself as an example to make those in-studio classes accessible. How do you explain something to a person who's visually impaired and such? So, yeah.
Well, we're going to take a short break and we're going to come back and talk about some of that, how that can be made more accessible. And through some of your, we also want to talk about some of your regional and national uh, conferences and things that you've been doing. So we'll be right back, everyone. Stay tuned. You're going to enjoy the remainder of our show.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I am a CFP practitioner, and I happen to be blind. I rely on NFB Newsline to keep me current with Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduced the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana, and we're speaking with Lamaiya. And Lamaiya, we were talking about your journey and where you are now in your, you're doing a lot of things. You're into the arts, performing arts, you're teaching yoga, and then you're doing a number of things. A question I wanted to ask, as a person with retinitis pigmentosa and being blind, how can I learn yoga? Because I've always perceived yoga to be very visual. So how can I learn how the techniques of yoga?
So that's a great question. In my teaching practices, I like to employ what I've called accurate anatomical directional cueing. So when I'm describing the pose, I'll say the name of the pose so that you can relate that to the activity you're about to do. And then I simply describe what your body's doing. If you're in what we call a tabletop position, you're on your hands and knees. You've got your wrist directly under your shoulders. Your knees are directly under your hips. So you can take a moment and feel that position, knowing where your wrists are, where your shoulders are and such. And then, you're making two big high fives with your hands, the number 11 with your shins, and that's how we set up that pose. And then I'll repeat the name of the pose again. And I do this as I go through each practice over and over again. And what you'll notice is after a while, you start associating those names with that physical body position. And then you know what you're doing without having to actually see what it is that's being demonstrated.
You are so descriptive with that, and you also have like chair yoga. Would you want to kind of explain a little bit of that?
Yes. So right now I offer yoga with modifications classes, and this came about from having individuals who just are interested in having the different modifications for yoga poses that would be more traditionally done on the floor. Also, with us moving into this, what I call live stream life, which we've all been in for the past year, a lot of people are sitting at their desks or sitting at their home desk or what have you. And so I wanted to create a practice that's midday, right around lunchtime, that you could do at your desk, in your office, or, wherever you happen to be, utilizing that chair and accessing some of those same poses that we may normally do on a mat. And that also affords my students the opportunity to, when they learn these modifications, they can go then and take another class be it a, a math class or something, if they're watching it live stream, and be in their chair and know, okay, so this is that modification that I can do in my chair instead of having to get down on the floor. So, yeah.
I have taken several of your classes,
Yes.
and they're very descriptive, and and very challenging, as they should be.
Yes.
Because I know generally when I have been attended classes at the gyms, they're not descriptive. They really don't want to take the time to be descriptive.
Right.
And when we get into some of these classes, some of the instructors, like you said previously, they want to help, but then they just don't know how to be descriptive.
Yes.
And you've done a lot of work in advocacy in that area. You want to explain, share with us some of your travels and your international travels, and what did it all take to get to that level, and who did you take along with you?
Yes, so I've actually done a lot of traveling dancing. I have performed with my dance company and taught multiple master classes at World Dance Alliance conferences, which took us to close Wisconsin, further away, Hawaii. I taught at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I've taught in El Paso, Texas. We also traveled to Juarez, Mexico on that same trip to do a cultural exchange with the Performing Arts Center there. And I was also afforded the opportunity at my college as part of a grant-funded program for theater and dance. Myself, a theater faculty, and then 6 of our students put together an entire lecture demonstration that dealt with American theater and American social dance, the evolution and creation of these uniquely American art forms. And we traveled to universities in Xi'an, Shanghai, Zhengzhou, and we also were able to take our students to Beijing, and we performed at American cultural centers on these university campuses as well. That's a few. There's more, but that is a few. And just, not just being fearless and just, these wonderful experiences that I've been able to, partake in, and just not wanting to allow my visual impairment to be a barrier to that. Instead of, thinking, oh, I can't, it's how can I? How am I going to make this happen? Because it's going to happen.
Well, and you have made it happen, and you've made it happen here with us on our show. And we're going to take a short pause, and we're going to come back with the conclusion of our show with Nemaya Lancaster.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind. We're talking with Lamaiya. And Lamaiya, For those who are interested in getting more information, how can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I do offer a lot of live stream classes right now. Everything is live streamed. Yoga classes, yoga with modification, restorative, yoga with meditation. So combining that movement and meditation. My company is Soul Flow Yoga. So Soul Flow is one word, SOULFLOW, and then yoga. You can find me on all social media outlets. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel where I premiere videos, short videos and longer videos. So I like to say it's for the yoga on the go. You can fit it in your practice at any point during the day. And that's on YouTube. That's also Soul Flow Yoga. If you want to contact me, I'm at soulflowyogalife@gmail.com. You can send me an email. We can talk, see what your plans are, if you have any other questions for me. So really Soul Flow Yoga across the board.
And you have free classes on Saturdays?
I do. I teach a free live stream community class on Saturdays. It's 9 a.m. Central Time, so that would be 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can sign up for all of these classes through beccasbootcamp.com. That's where we register everyone for the classes, and then you'll get sent a Zoom link to your email, and you can log in and join our practice.
And that's beccasbootcamp.com.
Yes. beccasbootcamp.punchpass.com.
Okay, punchpass.com.
Yep.
Okay. And I tell you, your voice is just made for the meditation and the classes. I tell you, it's very relaxing. Your classes are. So I just want to thank you. We want to thank you so very much for joining us. And we're planning on having you come back maybe next month and share with us some more vital information and maybe some more demonstration so that we can just get everybody moving, because during this time of COVID, we definitely need our minds and our bodies moving.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Lamaiya.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and we just want to say to our listening audience, I hope that you listened and that you learned today, because as blind citizens, you can always be encouraged through our shows and be encouraged through people like Lamaiya that blindness does not have to hold you back. You can live the life you want. Join us next week. Thank you very much.
National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.